flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Peggy, do you need this signed?
Yes, please.
Call the meeting to order. And we need to amend the agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add the resolution of, what's it, number on that?
Number 2019-8. In Senate File 184, loader allowance on roads.
Second Rick's motion.
18-8? What was the dash?
2019-8. Any discussion on this? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approve the minutes of 3/11. Everybody had a chance to look at them?
Yep.
Yep.
I don't see anything contentious. I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. General public concerns. Anybody here complaining, yelling, screaming?
We've got all of our barricades, type 2s, cones are all out right now.
Even borrowed the life, or the school crossing guards to leave Taft to come out and help hold traffic back.
Yeah. No, we're gonna be running this morning, hauling as much rock as we can before the road gets soft, and trying to blade the spots where, water is just across the road to get as many of those open back up as we can. I'm gonna try and get a detailed list put together and get that dispatched at the end of the day. Yeah, it's ugly. The ditches are still semi-full of snow, so the water's going around the snow out onto the road and giving us pretty good ruts.
I think the temperature is helping,
Yeah.
getting colder at night and helping slow things down a little bit. The ice jam finally let go yesterday afternoon. The people out there were,
Where
You're
was
it was up, about Leroy Jorgensen's.
it? So north of the dam, 'cause I stopped at the dam yesterday and couldn't see a jam, and then went up to Berkmer and it was all open water,
Yeah.
so.
It was right in behind that curve by Isaac Walton.
Yeah, let go.
But it left at some point, didn't
Dave was
it?
worried
The Dave's
yesterday
message.
morning, 'cause it was coming up, lapping up onto the decks and
Okay.
in the backyards.
Well, my sister lives down by Lehigh, so I know they were really worried about when it was gonna let go.
I talked to Dave yesterday, he said he was in Whittemore, and, I can't remember the other guy's name, but, EMA, that come down here, Dave sent him down, they was up there sandbagging in Whittemore.
Okay.
But, I talked to, when I got back into town, a little after 1, or around 1, I met, Brownback and Jensen and Dean and, EMA guy out on the river, and they was taking a look at it. And a couple hours later, it let loose, but it was getting close to houses.
We had quite a few, sandbags that were pre-made up, sitting on pallets and all of them.
I think they loaded them up and hauled them out.
We've still got a pile of sand there for anybody that needs it.
But I think, Dave said something about they loaded up the sandbags and hauled them someplace.
Okay.
They took everything that was filled. But yeah, if you go north of the Rutland Dam, up, maybe 500, 750 feet, she's all ice in there, it's not broke loose yet, and it's that way all the way through Bradgate. But Murray Bridge, how she makes a bend and comes back around,
Yep,
it was half the road gone.
right. And,
It
it's
comes
gotten-
across, it cuts the bank, the snow's still covered, but she comes across the road, and then you can see the ripples, so you know half of it's
washed
gone.
out.
Or,
Yeah.
and it's all that low spot until you get on the bridge.
And we got that closed yesterday morning.
Yeah, I run into Joe, another fellow over there on the gravel from Rutland, that was headed around to the south end. But then they was going around the north end barricade at the end. swipe a barricade someplace else.
Right, I mean, that's more or less what we're doing now, is swapping barricades and moving them to different locations. It is on the road over by Foster Bridge. Right now, we've just got a couple type 2s sitting out there. Denny's supposed to be switching those to larger barricades.
Is it as far as when they had the,
Not as
halfway
bad
up?
as when the DOT had it as their runaround. I don't know that it all came all the way across. I know talking to Dean last night, it was about 3/4 of the way across the road.
So we just gotta remind people to be careful, don't go through it.
Watch the gravel, if there's probably ice on it, probably water on it, stay off of it. Okay, let's go ahead and get that resolution, we got another few minutes yet. Need a motion to adopt this resolution opposing the load allowance on the...
I have copies, okay.
I didn't know if you'd bring them or not, so I made copies, sorry.
No,
You're fine.
Well, we need to, well, I'll just say thanks to Ben for putting in extra time this weekend and, being on top of this to get this resolution 2019-8 put together. Basically states our objection to the overweight loads on our roads and bridges. So I'm just gonna make a motion that we adopt the resolution 2019-8.
This is a resolution opposing Senate Study Bill 1045 and Senate File 184, passed by the Senate Committee on Transportation.
Thanks, Abe.
130,000 pound loads on the non-primary highways throughout Iowa.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any other discussion on it?
So by doing this, we're going to get this down to Des Moines and along with other counties. I know there's several down there Thursday that were talking about doing something to this. Who are we getting it to?
I was told that once we pass this resolution, we're supposed to send it on to our representatives.
Our representatives, and they'll get it to the people.
Cranberry.
Cranberry,
Mhm.
perfect.
So, I guess after we pass the resolution, if one of you would send a copy of the signed, resolution to them, or I can, either way.
I just wanted to make sure we know who
Get
is
the
getting
right
it.
people.
Yeah, that's fine, I'm good with that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You got a copy there, you want to just sign this one?
Okay, right there, okay.
Looks like we all have to sign it.
Okay.
You pass that down before I lose it, and then she's
Looking for another copy?
wanting to know where I put that.
Send that on, or...
You think you need to physically mail them a copy?
I can, I'll probably send a digital copy
Yeah.
today, and then...
Get there sooner.
Mhm.
Get there sooner,
Otherwise,
yeah,
it might
and
get there
also-
after the vote.
Let them know that the other one will be coming.
If you would, please, get the, I guess, scan it and send it to them
Yep,
with the
yep, I can do that.
signed copy.
Scan it from here and send it to you, and then you'll have it. It'll be going into
Yep.
drainage here pretty soon.
Okay.
You have both addresses for those gentlemen?
I know I have Cranebrinks, so it was in
I
my
have-
email with
Yep.
you.
And I have Sexton's, I know, 'cause I got a lot of correspondence from him. If no one else has that, I can get that to you as soon as I get home. I don't have it with me.
That'll work. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ben.
thanks, Ben.
Keep us informed and keep track of all your mileage and man hours and everything on this, in case we get federal FEMA, well, it's been turned in, so.
That's what I told the guys, last Wednesday or Thursday, is basically start logging their time and of their locations, if they have a chance of them flowers, so.
Perfect.
All right, Dave, so
Thank you.
make sure we
All right.
Keep track of
Thanks, Ben.
everything.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Ben.
Speaking of disasters, we approved the disaster declaration. We got time?
Yeah, we got time.
Official.
What's that?
It'll be official.
Oh. Yeah.
But just,
I called everybody and got, we just need a motion to approve it legally.
I'd make a motion
The only thing I gotta say, we need to maybe make a little correction, I'm not the chairman.
Ah.
At the top it lists me as chairman, then Dave signs it down below, so I don't know if that makes any difference.
Mhm. I may have you re-sign it, put it on the right letterhead, I'll do that while you're in drainage.
Yeah, I didn't know if that would make any difference or not, but...
good catch.
Yeah.
Peggy had already left, and we tried to get this rushed through before we headed out for the convention.
Yeah.
Oh, Carl's still on there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that, well, that's okay.
I'll get those.
You'll get it.
Yep.
I don't, you know.
I'll make a motion for that declaration, if those corrections are made, then.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You ought to redo it, well,
Yes,
sign
I
it.
would be happy to do that for you.
All right, we're still a couple minutes early, but I think we can go a little early. Gary, I have a state extension.
Well, good morning.
Good
Morning.
Jerry.
So I'd like to go ahead and introduce Alexis Sedgens. She is our new program coordinator, shared with Pocahontas County. And so she came on just, let's say 80 days ago. Why I word it that way, Dave, is because she's got her 90-day review coming up.
Oh, counting the days.
So I wanted to introduce Lexi to you, and then she's got some materials to share, and then we'll talk briefly about that. So if you want to go ahead and send that, pass that around. So, you know, we always appreciate the opportunity to come to the Board of Supervisors to give an update about Iowa State University Extension outreach here in Humboldt County. And so the first piece that's there is our stakeholders report. And so that's an annual piece that we go ahead and put together. And Lexi, if you have some things that you want to highlight on that, that's great.
Okay. Well, I think some of the major things,
Next one.
this is my second.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. I guess it just, I mean, it goes over everything that happened in the county, and I think it shows some of the, larger events, I guess, that happened throughout the county this year. I know they focused on like the health and well-being, the youth K through 12, agriculture and natural resources, and the community and economic development, just throughout the year. So just a brief overview of everything that happened that year.
You'll notice that there's a picture on the front there of a group in the bottom left-hand corner talking about the land grant legacy. And so I think last year maybe we talked briefly about that there is land here in Humboldt County that was originally part of the Morrill Act of 1862, where the federal government gave land to the state of Iowa to be leased and later sold to raise money for the land grant university. And Bruce, where's the only land grant university in the state of Iowa?
I'm guessing it might be Iowa State.
It is Iowa State, that's right.
I think you stumped me on that last year.
I'm so glad you remember. And so what was really fun about that is we invited the current landowners, so we researched and found the current landowners of those parcels, those 160-acre parcels. And again, if you think about it, since 1862, how many times was that parcel maybe divided? So where one time it was just one owner, now it may be 3, 4, 5. And actually, the southern half of the city of Laverne, the part that's in Humboldt County, is in that quarter section.
Really?
And so we invited folks from Laverne to come to Humboldt, and then afterwards they go, oh, you need to come up to Laverne and tell more people about this. So we actually met in a machine shed up in Laverne to go ahead and have a little celebration there as well. And so that land was originally leased for 75 to 90 cents an acre.
Wow.
and then sold for $2.50 to $3.50 an acre.
Wow.
And so that was how Iowa State got started. There's 27 counties here in northwest Iowa where this land was found, because that was where the federal land was still available to be given to the states. Since that time, we've also found that 25 other states have land in northwest Iowa that the federal government gave to them to start their land-grant universities. There
That's
is
interesting.
none of that land, however, in Humboldt.
25 other states.
25 other
all land
states.
in Iowa.
Yeah, so if I
Doesn't
ever
seem
want to
right.
get into an argument
No, give it their
with
land.
people from other universities at national meetings about who's the first land grant, all I have to do is just say, Iowa was the first to accept the provisions of the Morrill Act of 1862. Therefore, we are the first land grant. That gets people at Penn State excited, Michigan State, and Kansas State, because they all have a claim to the first. However, there is land in northwest Iowa for Penn State and Michigan State that was given. And so, again, it's quite a bit of our history, and it's exciting to be part of that. So that was a fun activity. So, you know, every once in a while, Peggy, we can still have fun with our work.
Exactly.
The last piece that's in your packet, I wanted to share a little bit about the data that can come out of our Community and Economic Development Group, and that has to do with the data for decision makers on our health profile. And again, we're not going to read through that today. You know, I brought an idea that if you look on that first page on the right-hand side, health outcomes rank, you're the 22nd ranked county as far as health. So Eric, is that good?
I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm not sure which way the scale goes.
You're at the bottom, or?
I don't know if you wanna be number, you wanna be number
You
one?
wanna try to be number one?
Well, then we're a pretty good percentage.
We're working at it.
Yeah, we're a pretty good percentage.
I can't tell you who's number 99, I didn't
Okay.
take the time to look.
So if you wanna be number
I know
one,
it's
we're,
not Calhoun County where I live.
we're in the upper third.
That's right. Second page, you know, again, we'll just highlight a couple things. One that I wanted to point out is number of births and deaths in the county. You know, your natural change is about a net zero. Do you see that in that upper right-hand corner? You've got about the same number of birth announcements in the paper, Kent, as what you have deaths.
So we're pretty stable.
Pretty stable. Bottom left-hand side, we talked about primary care physicians, dentists, and mental health providers. You know, again, I took a look at the state providers versus the county providers there. You know, your doctors are seeing about 3 times what the state average is as far as clients per provider. Dentists about 1.5 times, and then you can see that mental health-wise, you've got 1 provider in the county, and there are about 12 times as many clients as potentially could be seeing that provider. So, again, before the meeting started, I overheard you talk a little bit about mental health and the need for mental health resources. You know, we can look at food stamps, we look at food stamp recipients. The third page, the disability characteristics, you mirror the states. Bottom left hand, as far as, you know, education attainment, you know, we have fewer bachelor degree folks here in Humboldt County as compared to the state, but I think a lot of that goes along with what education is needed for the jobs that are currently here. Bottom right-hand side, again, would it be any surprise to anyone in the room that we're an older county as compared to some of the other portions of the state? So again, you know, the last page, those numbers mirror the state of Iowa as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that those are the types of resources as far as data that Iowa State Extension outreach can generate to help decision makers in their work. And I think the last thing, Sandy, that's in the packet has to do with the program that's coming up, Master Conservationist. We've had representatives from County Conservation Board on the steering committee as we went ahead and planned this. And so, we're excited to offer this program again. We think there's going to be interest in people understanding more about their natural resources and how they can be part of conservation. So, I'll be done talking, and then if you have any questions, Lexi is right here. She'll answer all your questions.
Jerry, there was an email that came through not too awfully long ago about training township trustees again. Are you involved in that too?
That is something that was kind of, I met with Terry, my other regional director, last week, and that's something that we're talking about doing this next, probably year and a half or so, is getting a program or something put together to do the township training.
Okay, would you keep me in mind for that?
Oh, yes.
I've had, probably half a dozen township trustees say to me, I missed the last one, heard it was really good, would like to go to it, so.
Peggy, that would be great. And again, many times that winter time,
Yep.
right after the election, seems to be a good time to catch people.
You bet.
They're more in tune to go to a meeting during bad weather as compared to good weather. That's really what we found. So, but yes, we will keep you in mind of that.
Okay.
Because I think allowed, if you told me it was 4, 5, 6 years ago that was the last one that we did here, I wouldn't be surprised. So, yep, that'd be good. So.
Mine's attached behind Terry's, so.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
Yep.
All right, thank
Yep.
you.
I see you're still promoting the safety day camp. I like that, I've done that for many, many, many years.
You know, David, how, you can't tell them enough.
No.
You can't tell them much.
You need a little bit more time to explain them, because the classes seems to be getting bigger and bigger.
Yep, yes. But yep, there are some things that we'll continue to do because they're that important. And again, we try to incorporate some new things like this Master Conservation. It probably has been since 2011 was the last time that we offered it. So we have a new person in charge on campus, and so he's remodeled this. And again, we have found that in some of our programs, we need to go regionally to go ahead and get the critical mass of people that can come and be part of that. You know, township trustees will do that, Humboldt County only, but this Master Conservationist, we felt like we needed to go to 4 counties. I have responsibilities in Hamilton, Humboldt, Webster, and Wright counties. And then, brings a smile to my face when I get the chance to say, and then the interim responsibilities in Dallas and Warren counties. So, those mornings are a little earlier, you know, to get there.
Explain what the safety day camp is, what,
We take the 3rd graders and all the schools around. We go down here at the fairgrounds, and they have safety on electricity from REC puts that on, Larry. Then they have a highway patrolman there. They talk about tractor safety, farm safety, ground animals. I run the smoke trailer. I keep telling them, don't jump out the window and broke your leg, you can't get away from the fire. And every class, you'll have at least 1 or 2 that'll jump out the window. But, and then they got a disaster trailer, or it's tornadoes and hurricanes, and then the whole trailer shakes. It makes you feel like it, the whole trailer's shaking, the wind's blowing, and you know, shades are vibrating, and the Venetian blinds. It's real interesting. And then they have 4-wheeler safety. What else is there on there? Fire safety.
I think you've covered, there's about 8 stations that they go through.
It sounds like a real good program.
And they got about a half an hour to get through each station. And they cut it back, I think it's 20 minutes or 25 minutes now, and then they got 5 minutes to get to the next station.
when do they do it, Dave?
That'll be coming up in May.
No, it's in the fall.
That's in the fall, that's right.
In September.
Yeah,
Usually
September or October, usually September. And we do it here, and then we go to Eagle Grove, and we do it over there. And there's 7 or 8 schools over there, Eagle Grove, Oldfield, Belmont, Clemmy, Clarion, there's several of them around that area that come to it. They bus them all in.
Just kind of a field trip for them.
Well, and you know, the amount of field trips anymore that schools allow
Yeah, a few.
are fewer and farther
Right.
between, and so that we feel very fortunate that schools feel the same way that safety is important.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Mhm.
And we can always use volunteers if somebody wants to play the operator. We have, they have call 911. And that's an operator sitting inside the little closet, and she answers them just like a regular dispatcher would. And I'm surprised at the number of kids that do not know their address.
Oh, I could believe that.
The 911 operator will say, "What's your address?" "What street do you live on?" They don't know where they live. They don't know their phone number.
Oh, it's surprising what they don't teach kids these days.
Yeah. We've
I mean,
got the
they don't write
teachers-
cursive anymore. They
I
can't- they
know,
can't
I
read it.
know, I don't agree with that one either.
We've got the teachers now teaching them their address and where they live. And I said, you can't just say Humboldt, or you can't just say Second Street,
Yeah.
because there's a Second Street in every town around.
Sure.
So you got to tell them where you live and what town. It's a lot of fun. It takes a whole day. Usually start about 8:30 in the morning, and it'll go until 2:30 or so in the afternoon. Then we gotta bus them all back, but
Mhm.
they feed all of them.
Is that ground up there, is that Blythe's edges?
Blythe has a piece as well, and,
Mhm.
you know, Blythe being the long-term office assistant at the office,
Right.
and then substituting, it really was special for Blythe to be part of that, yeah, so she does have a piece.
Yeah,
I
I
wondered.
actually have a piece of it too.
You do?
Yeah, I got 80 acres. I got a
Very
little
cool.
plaque he sent me.
Yep,
Mhm.
kinda forgotten that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
So-
Yep.
Well, thank you both for your time.
Well, thank you for the support you provided Iowa State Extension Outreach here in Humboldt.
They probably wish they still had that land.
Well, I've offered 100 times the, 250, and I'm still waiting for anything. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Great.
Hang in there, you're doing a good job.
That's right.
Yeah, 10 more days.
Yeah, 10 more days, yeah, we'll see how it really goes then.
Yeah, we'll get you, make sure you drop off the deal. Okay, great. Yep. I know.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, couple minutes before drainage, I guess we could go into that.
I make a motion to go to drainage.
I second.
Any discussion, all in favor going into drainage?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
All right. Go into drainage.
Something there. Oh, and then I dropped everything.
Oh, that cold is taking you.
I know, I got my foot caught and everything else just, oh.
At least
There we go.
it tripped you up too bad.
Yeah, at least I didn't fall.
We need to make a hanger under there.
What is, just new map?
I think it's just new maps.
Oh, for our book?
Yeah, for the books, I
Over
think.
here.
I haven't asked her, but I'm sure that's what it is.
Thank you,
Coffee?
sir, yes. Please.
Sure.
You know, the other day when you were
Yeah.
on the phone, I heard your voice. I poured you a cup of coffee and said,
Well, appreciate it.
"Oh, Rick usually drinks coffee, that's why I set the extra cup." Morning, Rick.
Morning. Nice shirt.
Hey, thanks.
It's like that
I
dog
was drinking coffee.
thing when you ring the bell, you know?
Yeah. Oh, well.
I just put in a cord, Peggy drug it all the way out.
I'll wear this shirt this week 'cause they played well, and then next week when they get thumped,
Did.
I'll go to the closet, won't wear it for till football again.
what I was gonna say, football season.
Uh-huh.
Well, would you look at that?
Okay. Well, I don't like to gloat, but when I get a chance, I like to.
Thank you. Okay, DD 35 branch Cs, Fraser here.
I don't know if you've seen this at all yet. Just a quick
Thank you.
summary for you. As part of the project, several of you have been through this before, we do an appraisal report that summarizes payments for easements, permanent and temporary. The permanent easement, we typically figure 30 feet wide over the length of each parcel. And then the temporary, we typically figure 100 feet wide. And what we've done then is, in the office, we figured out how much that area is for each parcel. And on that last sheet, you can see the list, where it is, who the owner is, the amount of acres in permanent right-of-way, and then you'll see that we have appraised cost per acre of $2,500. What DOT and some other agencies do is when you look at permanent right-of-way, they look at a third to a fourth of the land value. I worked with a appraiser here in Humboldt County years ago, talking through that. And this, what we've been using now recently is $2,500 an acre in the permanent area. Then the temporary area is that 100-foot wide area I'm talking about. And we've estimated that to be $1,266 an acre. I think we went through this once at least.
Yeah, we adjusted it here just recently.
Just recently, yes, that is exactly right. We did 225 bushels an acre, and what we adjusted was, we adjusted the price for corn to $3.75 a bushel. And then for 5 years, we did effect on the land. The year after construction, we figured 60% loss, and 40, 25, 50, and 10 for 5 years. We've just used corn as a basis. It's worked out. Some of it might have been beans, some other uses. But going through the calculations for 5 years, at that price, at that yield, it came out $1,266 an acre. So what you see in the report for temporary easement is that $1,266 an acre. For this project, the total cost for the permanent easement is $17,912, and the total cost, let's see if I can get this, total of $30,304. So, I look back, this is just slightly higher than I had in my preliminary engineering report. Never sure how that's gonna be, come out, but we're pretty darn close. I don't know if we have any guys. Oh, yeah, that's one. Okay. That's it, summarized. It's a typical report, it's what's been working. I'm glad to take any comments from landowners.
It's not really a typical project, though.
No.
I mean,
No.
I don't recall going through seed cornfields before either, with a
No.
drainage project, just in my short time here, so.
We
A little different.
had, I don't know, that wasn't seed corn. I was thinking of lateral M for DD2, Lois. Anyway, that ended up being that they were able to get out, and the corn, we harvested just before the
Mhm.
contractor came
Yeah.
in. I think we paid for some drying or something,
Yeah.
because it was, we had to take it early, so.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the appraiser's report. Approve and accept with that one.
I would second.
Any discussion?
So this covers everything then? I mean, for
No.
your,
The-
what do we,
At the completion hearing, we'll still need to work out, well, this one it does, I'm sorry. This one it does, unless there's other claims at the completion hearing. For example, if they thought.
You know, if they,
Why-
well, when you mention drying or something extracurricular,
Oh, right.
it,
We don't know of anything extracurricular on this one yet.
because the project's not done.
true.
Yeah.
Well, the other side is being half of it's done, and say they have a blowout or something down below, or they could end up going back down there and doing a little more work on a hole that develops. We probably, we're gonna have two different time periods, because the bottom half's already done, the top half isn't gonna be worked on again until September, so we might have another
Yeah, there could be
extension
something,
put in there somewhere to,
yes.
for
there
repair.
could be, but that, you have the completion hearing to be able to take care of that.
Yeah.
And that would only be, yeah, the extracurricular, like
Yes.
Bruce described, if a damage, something happened.
Yes.
and that'll just make it seem like it'll go another year.
No, no.
Just being smart.
So in other words, if nothing does happen, this is it.
Yeah, correct. Correct,
So I can go ahead and pay these out then.
yes.
Okay. You get the vote on that, right?
Mhm.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Early DD 11 sub 5.
We probably pass it out and look at it and then wait a
Yeah, we have
minute
to
or
wait.
two. 'cause
Sure,
it's gotta be-
just get a look at it.
When it's coming.
Before we vote, that's for sure.
Thank you, sir. Oh, you knocked me over.
Yeah, just try that again.
Yeah. If you want.
That won't work, right?
No.
Okay, I'll take it.
Oh, okay, thank you, thank
You're
you.
gonna have to go this one.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
The 125.
So
I know
basically,
some
should there
people-
be
Just for a refresher course,
That one.
over the permanent
I would just
easement,
replace them with...
say they come back in 5 years from now, they have the right to go in over
I
the
know some
permanent
people don't
easement,
have them at all, so I just made that.
but they do pay crop damage.
That's my understanding from
There should be
drainage experts.
identical
There's some differing opinions.
You can't keep them out, but they will pay you crop damage for what they...
Yeah.
That's how I think it's comparison, I've gotten that from at least one attorney.
Yeah. And then
That works.
supervisor one.
Yeah. Hopefully it's a small problem, you can wait
Yeah.
till the crops are out, but
Yeah. But
doesn't
it's
always
something
work.
drastic,
Replacing what's
you
there.
do have the right to go in.
Yes.
I thought you were copper once last week.
That's gonna take me a while.
Same dollar values per acre,
Is this
Same with-
everything?
Mhm.
different landowners.
Mhm. Yeah. Left and right, or east and west, or whatever.
Perfect.
Hey, Dave, have you noticed any water or anything sitting out there along?
It's just unbelievable, the difference. It's unbelievable.
In a good way.
Yeah, good way.
I was gonna say, 'cause I said, did you see any water sitting? And you said, it's unbelievable. I'm thinking, oh, for the love of God.
That's what I thought too.
Oh, I didn't hear you right there, I'm sorry about that. It sat there, you know, when it first went for a day or so, but boy,
When they opened?
it really went.
Good.
There's nothing like there would have been, not even close.
Good, good, good. Yeah.
You know, I don't like spending money and then
Yeah.
having it sitting, that's great.
And there must have been crevices or something where the frost has gone out, because we've seen some lowering of where water is standing, but
Yeah, there's some ponds that are going down a little bit.
a little bit so far, yeah. This is, one, we have some issues where the contractor drove across the field several
Yep.
times. This does not count for that.
No, these are just the numbers that we're using for the permanent and temporary easements.
Yes, correct. So, that won't be finalized till the completion hearing. There'll have to be some discussion on it. But there hasn't been any settlement reached between the contractors.
I was gonna say, have they come to anything on that?
No, not at this point.
Oh, you guys will talk longer.
So there was no written objections to this appraisal hearing?
No.
Okay,
Yes.
yes,
Which one?
this one I'm holding.
The new one.
11-5, yeah.
To the report?
To the report?
Yes.
Okay, what are they?
Oh, is that,
This comment.
okay, but is it for this report? or is it
But
for
this
the
is
rest
for
of the
the-
area?
Yes,
That's for that additional area that is granted.
Yeah, there is.
Along that
1 point.
road.
Yeah, there's 1.14 acres granted along the road because of the issues with putting a driveway in.
You see, that wouldn't be,
Temporary.
yeah.
Be temporary, but it was,
so,
it's not technically part of this report.
that's what I was, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, no,
And it shouldn't be part of this report?
not at this point, no. This will be, again, crop damage, or however you wanna look at it, compaction causing crop damage, for the completion hearing. It's good to air out the situation and see where we stand on it,
Mhm.
but I don't see it as part of this hearing.
Because it wasn't a permanent easement,
Right.
it was
And
temporary.
it wasn't even, it was...
And it's not part of the described temporary easement.
Exactly,
It's outside of these boundaries,
right.
so it'll be a separate issue we'll have to handle separately, is what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
yep.
Because the report basically, is the tile line easement, permanent, temporary.
Right, right. And the 1.14 acres along that north fence, we'll work something out on that one, at the completion hearing, or previous to it, if we can get verbals at least worked out. And then the rest of the area is between the landowner and the contractor. So, hopefully they can get that worked out too.
Okay.
There is a part that my tenant is saying, in addition to the north boundary, was, a spot that was red that they exceeded the, temporary easement.
That's the number 2 on here?
Yes.
Mhm.
Typically, those are worked out at the completion hearing too.
Yeah.
This is,
This report has to do with what was in the
As
contract.
designed in the
In the
contract.
design and everything, okay.
yeah. Yeah, so if he can come up with some measurements, that'd be...
Which is the
very
same, is
helpful.
the tile
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
I'll try to find out exactly.
Nothing more, nothing
And
less.
our work area.
Yeah, the, like here
So,
and here.
this is gonna, take care of the existing, the way the tile was put in and everything there.
Yes,
Her objection or their objection is going to be taken care of at a later date.
yes, correct, correct.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Wait a minute.
If Tricia would've put that 9:14, we could've started.
I figured you'd be windy.
There you go.
Actually, usually goes on. Okay, you're close enough.
Okay. Now it's 9:15, I'll make a motion to accept and approve, or approve and accept, Fraser's report for District 11, Sub 5.
I'll second that motion.
Using the same guidelines as he described on the other,
Yes.
for the
Sure, there's
temporary.
no deviation from what you described earlier.
Same thing.
Sounds excellent. Good.
Anybody from the audience got any discussion on it? No other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We should do the same for estimate 6.
No.
Fingers aren't working this month.
Thank you.
What I just gave you is estimate 6 for, 8035 branch C. Basically, what it covers is they finished the 42-inch pipe, got it installed. They've installed the majority of the 36-inch pipe. One of the big items on here is the, road crossing. They have finished the road crossing. I'm sure you've all probably seen the pile of dirt on the west side from the excavation.
You're talking the boring?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
24-inch.
Yep.
Yes, you can see that's over $37,000 of this.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, the good news is the DOT is gonna reimburse you for that. So,
How did they do that?
we'll give you a summary to send them, basically. As long as we get them informed and give them notice for all the hearings, they commit to meet their, requirements of paying for anything through the right-of-way. So, that'll help the cost in this project a lot.
So they'll pay the full 37?
Yes.
How, soon, how long does that take?
It'll take a few weeks after we submit it. We should do that now, probably. Go ahead and get it submitted. If you pay this, we should submit it to get it reimbursed right away.
You gotta show them that you paid the bill, and
Yes,
Because it's a reimbursement.
yes,
So it has to be paid and then reimbursed.
correct. Yeah, we need to drink.
Should give them a stash of like I don't go anywhere anymore without...
There you go. Rick, on here it says estimated percentage of the job completed 70%. Is now, are we at, work completed is less than 70%, right? But
Yes.
with the pipe we have on the ground,
This would be dollars expended, basically. The physical progress of pipe in the ground is less than 70.
right,
but what's done is actually more work because it's deeper and larger pipe.
Exactly. Yeah, it should be considerably less work from this point on, especially when we get to the 30-inch pipe.
So the 70% is more or less the percentage of the total dollars, not the distance, obviously.
Correct. Correct.
I know at our last meeting with, King, I guess I wasn't quite aware that we had so much sand out there on this project.
Oh, it was terrible.
No, I evidently didn't hear about it, or didn't know it, that there was that much sand out there.
Yeah.
So I could see with them, if that was the issue, they do have to let it drain out before they can
Yes,
keep working.
it was deep and lots of sand. You just get into some firm material and, hallelujah, and then they had another big pocket, so,
I
yeah.
tossed you a cough drop in case you...
Oh, thank you. I usually carry them with me, because I get these spells once.
The other thing I would, the other day, Rick and I had visited, and I told him that, in my opinion, the pipes that are gonna be moved off that ground and stored over on the end of the field, we have to make sure that it's not the farmers that are doing that, 'cause I don't wanna end up with 25 pipe, the bells broke because someone banged them against someone else's pipe, so let's make damn sure that it's the contractor that moves them, they're inspected over there, and they're inspected when they're brought back, so that we all know that Dial didn't get blamed for bumping them, or whoever, and I'm just using the name because it's their ground. I just don't want...
That's a really, really good point.
So...
There is quite a few pipe out there.
Oh my God,
Oh, I just went out on 180th.
it's like they're growing now with the sun, or the snow coming off them, it's like, wow, there's a lot more pipe than they looked like before.
Yeah, they've got them almost laid up to the road.
Up to the road, just
Yeah.
about.
Mhm.
So, I know it's gonna be a little...
Moving round bales was a crappy job, but that's gonna be...
Yeah.
You know, you move off round bales off 160 acres, it gets to be a long project.
Yeah, it would. Oh.
So we're good with that total on the payment? The $148,235.40, is that what they're requesting?
That's what I'm
You're requesting?
Well, and this'll probably be the last payment until they come back
I
in the
would
fall.
certainly say so. Yeah, 'cause this gets for pipe in the ground and pipe on site, for the boring, yeah.
Okay.
But you do have almost 56,000 held back in retainage.
I'll make a motion for that payment on 148,235-40, pay estimate.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Second.
Well, speaking of that, $37,000 and the jacked and bored pipe under the road, is that absolutely capped off at this point?
Yes, I mean, I didn't see it myself, but...
Because
yes.
we don't need that full of dirt when
Oh,
we get
yeah.
to it.
And that's the last thing the contractor wants too.
Well, can that be verified?
As we get there, I mean, we're not gonna dig it up.
I was gonna say,
It's
you aren't...
covered up.
It's covered.
So it is a sufficiently capped, if you
Yes,
will.
yes.
You would think so.
Yes.
Well, I mean, we thought a lot of things, and
I know.
sometimes it didn't pan out what you thought was supposed to be,
Yeah,
and
it's
what
not
happened.
exposed for us to check.
Okay.
We
So
checked
it's-
as they were doing it, but,
Because, yeah, this is on hold,
yeah,
and when the hold comes off in the fall, and they will get there eventually,
mhm.
I'm gonna state publicly, I don't wanna hear that culvert's full of dirt,
Oh, no, that's, yeah,
so.
crazier things have happened.
Well, yes, they have,
Yeah,
some of them on this project.
yeah.
So, just a question on the boring, I know it's done, and then we'll get
We'll be there
reimbursed.
when they open that up, as far as exposure.
Yes,
I might be there just for...
there you have it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and then you already stated when this is paid, then you'll expedite the paperwork, if you will, to send to the DOT, and they will send the total
Yes.
reimbursement for
Yes,
that
correct,
project under the road.
yep,
So some of this money is gonna get put back in.
yes, definitely.
Fairly reasonably.
Yeah, in the next few weeks. I mean, they've known about it from the beginning. They were notified when the work was being done, and now we'll notify them that it's been done, and here's the invoice for the amount.
Have we already submitted for the closure? Agwell closure, that's all right.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. DD 35 outlet. Discussion and possible action on the cleanup.
We have met on site with Todd Lee and Rick, and I think Travis was along. Yeah, okay, I'm looking right by you, sorry. To
Did
look
they
at-
plant all those trees?
Yeah, sure wanted to. Yeah.
We did a locate already.
a mess.
It is a mess. The problem is, you've authorized preparing easements for this work, but we can't get any measurements to do easements very well at all. So, good or bad thing about looking at it last week, there's really no good trees in or along the ditch. It's all just volunteer growth. Todd was out there with him, Todd Lee. The forestry guy, he just hasn't been able to get here. We've talked about, he had to combine that with something else that would pay his salary. If he gets to the area, I hope he still gets a hold of us. Now, the development that happened last week was, is it a Birdie that owns the North Park, Jeff?
Yeah,
Birdie?
Jeff.
Birdie and Sons.
Okay, I think you know him pretty well, isn't that true?
Yeah, he built my house.
Okay.
Travis worked with him when he was in high school.
Okay. Here's the most current thought, was get verbal approval at least from him to work on the ground that they own, to get that much accomplished and have something that people can see on how it's gonna look when it's done.
So do we have to follow the way that meander, I mean, it, back and
Unfortunately,
forth 14 times before
Yeah.
it goes
You
a
can't
couple hundred
straighten
feet?
Because it's not a dredge ditch.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the case. And it's wide, really wide in some areas, narrower in others. I do have from a drainage attorney, as far as cost, you pay for easements, and they're saying pay little or nothing for right in the ditch, because it's a ditch. It's what it's gonna be, it's what it's always gonna be. And then not a lot on either side either, because it's gonna be mostly just for access in the future. So I don't know how it's been left with Birdie. I think we should try and follow up and see if we can't get official clearance from him for that to be done.
Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Would love it.
This job's gonna be way nicer to the environment if we can do it when it's froze.
Yeah.
I mean, if the other part of this project's delayed till after seed corn harvest, let us come in when the ground freezes and then, 'cause it's gonna be a muddy mess.
Yes, it
It'd be
is.
better to wait till next fall, in the winter.
Yep, and the other thing, I talked to the city administrator, he will not give me a burn permit, a waiver for on-site,
They won't.
but
Maybe we could talk
that's,
to
I'm
them.
a contractor. If the board of supervisors asked, I would hope that they work with you, but if I gotta haul every log and break
It's very expensive.
oh, they're just winning another 8-10 grand.
Well, doesn't 16th Avenue separate city and town?
But we're south of that.
I know we are, but
It's close.
Oh, drive it across the street.
I'm just telling you what I told, and I told him, I said, well, that's gonna be a lot of extra expense to the landowners, and he said, that's our policy. He said, I can burn on
They
April
have-
27th from 8 to 6 a.m.
They have waived that policy, other occasions they have waived that policy.
But
So
he said, supervisors all know my phone number. He told me that, so,
Oh,
just telling you what he told me,
yeah.
I'm guessing any contractor would go in and ask for a waiver, then it's,
He's gonna say no.
but he's gonna say no to me.
I can see that. Yeah.
Just,
He's going by their rules, their
Yeah.
ordinances.
Yeah, that's
well, here's the other
what-
thing, if I haul them away, I need an easement to get from the creek up to the road to load the logs.
right.
We're talking hundreds of passes through people's property,
Mhm.
carrying logs.
Mhm.
And we say logs are not really logs, they're more, what they, 4 or 6 inches?
Well-
Or are they bigger than that?
There's a cottonwood I
Yeah.
told the engineers, we can't get. It's next to the bridge, so it's next to the bridge, the creek, and the guy's got a shed there. I can't fall it without hitting something.
Oh,
And there's
so there's
plenty
some
of
bigger
stuff up
trees.
around the second, or the Humboldt Homes area, that some of those are pretty good sized trees up through there that...
There's a lot of fairly big trees in there.
But that cottonwood, you know, if I got called tree service, that might be $1,500 for one tree. Or we thought maybe we just leave that one.
Yeah.
But most of it's gonna have to be pulled from the east side over to the west side and then burned on site, or, because the east side is just, you're out of room because of the buildings.
I thought I had Jeff's number, but I don't. I can talk to him.
And we tried to stop, we just didn't catch him yet, but that's my biggest thing, is I'm hoping you'll let us wait till like, it freezes.
I could see where it'd be much better working
Oh.
conditions.
Yeah, that,
Oh, especially
it's gonna
now.
be less money and less intrusive to the surrounding property, and 25 feet each side of the ditch isn't much room. We got trees that are 80 feet tall,
Yeah.
trying to work in just 25 feet, but
Well, and we talked with Jason, and we recommended, maybe just cutting the trees
That's what I was just
and
gonna
putting
say.
cord on the stumps instead of digging them out, so we don't, I mean, if we dig all those trees out, you're gonna end up just cutting a new ditch, 'cause
Yeah.
the sides are gonna be falling in.
Yeah, we
Everywhere.
did talk about that in the office too.
it'll look a lot different. We get the trees out, and then engineer's recommendation, we can see what we want to stump here or there out.
Yeah.
Well, I did forward those pictures that I took, that when I sent them to you guys, they all flipped upside down to that guy out in Washington DC, and he hasn't sent back that he doesn't understand being they're upside down.
Oh.
Just going down?
Well, when I turned my phone, when I was taking pictures, somehow when I sent them out to everybody, they all went upside down, so, and my wife, I'm gonna have to dock her pay for being my assistant. I'm not very good with the phone and the computer and all that, but some of those, like you say, those trees in there,
But you're right, there's a whole majority of them, they're inches are smaller. Just gonna be a pain to get them killed off, but
Yeah.
we could put a brush cutter on our track skid loader.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you're probably gonna do, grind a lot of them up?
Well, first time we'll probably cut them, and then, but they're gonna come back, or you open that up to daylight,
Yeah, more stuff will grow.
you're gonna have to maintain it a little bit, so try to cut the stumps low so you can get them more over the top. And then tore down on the start, but it'd take a little bit of maintenance to follow up to keep them out of there, so we don't have a problem again. The other thing Todd Lee mentioned is he thought at the bottom of that ditch was limestone. That's gonna negate ever going deeper without big expense.
True. Yeah, but we can at least open up where it is, even if we don't go deeper. I think that'll still make a huge difference.
And I think there's enough stumps in the curves and stuff, you could say, well, I'm taking the stump out, and if that straightens it out, well, that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be some of that, where you take the trash out, it'll make the ditch much nicer.
There's a couple pretty sharp bends where it's cutting into the bank and it's sloughing off. It'd be nice to straighten that a little bit.
Mhm. We'll see if we can't get somebody out there to look at those situations with us.
Okay.
so if there was a chance
I
that...
suggest you don't.
Stay-
I like Rick's idea. Sometimes when you pull a stump, it might have a...
Before you guys get going on something, would you do the upper half if Bertie didn't have any problems with that, or are you
We
tied
got-
up with
we
stuff that you got...
a few days here, we can get started now, but, well, right now, it's getting muddy now.
Right.
So it would be, but burning is the big thing. Can I fall them, and I don't want to fall them and then they lay there all summer? Can I start a fire? I don't have the smoke blow towards Humboldt Homes, but
Yeah.
it's, he pretty much just said, not at all, can I burn there?
Well, I think we can get a couple of these questions answered here pretty
Get
quickly.
a south wind one day, then we can talk to him.
Yeah.
And the burning situation, and then, so the thought is with the one landowner, just basically permission,
Right.
and the balance of it later this year,
If they're-
under better conditions,
Yeah, the upper half, the north side, if you want us to start now, yeah, we can get in there and
to get a start.
let people see what's gonna happen and get something done early, but
As soon as it starts getting bad, muddy, it's just gonna be a mess.
I'm gonna tear it up. I hate to even bring back going up there, 'cause
Right.
Well, the way the
Right.
forecast is, it sounds like it's gonna get muddy dang quick,
Oh,
Supposed to be in the 40s and 50s.
the 40s and 50s, so it's,
and I really wanna be respectful to those, they got some nice yards there, and I know what I'm gonna do this time of year, but
yeah.
we can go out there walking and fall them and pile them up, and get some of it out if you want, get started.
Well, in the meantime, in that meaning, a lot of that wouldn't get done until fall, better conditions than spring, we should be able to have this easement business done by then.
We'll see what we can do as far as getting, the idea is to try and get the easement to match where it is.
Mhm.
And with all that tree cover, it's hard to get the information. We'll see if we can't figure something out to make it work. I may wanna talk to Doug Strike as far as maybe we can use a description that the easement is 30 feet wide following the center line of the existing ditch. Have an aerial photograph with it or something. We'll try that and see if Doug or whoever you want me to talk to feels that's acceptable. If that's acceptable, that's what we'll do.
Well, I think we would want to, otherwise we're gonna be in a position of asking each landowner's permission versus having the easement, which is kind of their permission, but they, I believe, a while back, that it's pretty agreeable to go this easement process.
Yes.
And I understand it's difficult to get an exact measurement in that location, but I think that's a good idea. The following, if you find the center and it winds around in there, it's so far out, so that everything's in place when you could actually get to it later this year to finish it.
Yes.
Terrific,
And
yep.
I think that's definitely, but in the meantime, don't you believe we can find out from the city administrator
I
what
think
his...
so.
And are you willing to check with Jeff Birdie, the landowner in the
Yeah,
upper
we'll
end?
talk to 'em. You know,
And,
See if they'll let us have burn pile or
yep,
Yeah,
an access point. I
and,
think he's got the lot up there, kitty corner from Union Cemetery.
mhm. And so,
He's got some dirt.
does that encompass the
Yeah.
entire north portion of this area then?
I've been told it does, I don't know how far it is.
Jeff owns that farm ground over there
Yeah,
across
That's
from...
what I'm
probably
saying.
the north half of it anyway, isn't it?
So it's quite a pretty good,
Chunk of it.
It's described that way to me, anyway, I don't know.
It might jog around some buildings, but I think by the creek side, and then, like Bruce said, he's got the field on the east side, so
mhm.
he'd be the first landowner to start with.
Yeah.
Well, I like your common sense approach thinking, Rick, that at least it gives a start. And I would think the two things that we need to find out, the burning and permission, ought to be able to accomplish this week.
Well,
Be able to
yeah,
accomplish it.
the only issue is if it has to go ahead of the city council.
Right, but at least know if they go that, you know, move it forward.
Yeah.
And then landowner permission,
No, I wanna be, we live here, so I don't want
right,
bad
No.
jobs anywhere around, so.
and you're, you know, being conscientious about not wanting to cause damage in the process is a very good idea.
Well, thank you.
Anybody wanna make a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion.
Talk with Bertie and get...
We need a motion, yeah, I would say, per our discussion on the clean out, that at this point, get the upper landowner's permission to do some work in there. And in the meantime, we will check with the city of Humboldt and their thought process on lifting a burn ban for the material.
As weather permits.
Yeah, weather permitting and conscientious contractor, we already know that, so just to see if something can be done now versus the balance of it, we're obviously looking towards it later in this year.
I'll talk with the city today.
Perfect.
I'd second his motion.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thanks, Rick. And Rick, and you'll get ahold of Jeff.
We will talk to him, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we done with us?
Yep.
That's about what we're gonna do.
Thank you.
You know what you gotta do, thank you.
You bet, appreciate it.
Need a motion to go out of drainage?
Unless there's anything else?
I got one thing on DD 35, on 190th Street, where it goes under the road.
Mhm,
There's an intake on the south side of the road.
mhm.
Now, there...
And the north side.
On the north side?
Mhm.
Is that the gravel?
Yes.
The first gravel to the south?
Yes.
That's the south gravel, yeah.
Yes. Well,
Both sides.
okay, okay. Well, the one on the south side in particular, is, I'm not a hydrologist, nor an engineer, but it's a beautiful looking intake, and yes, the water does naturally, the surface water, there's always been a culvert structure under the road, so it's all, the water is gonna go there. But the intake is off almost to the side and at a too high of an elevation. There's a terrific amount of water, of course, running, you know, surface water right now. None of it's going in that intake.
Okay. We'll take a look, see what we can do with it.
Yes, would you
Push
please?
Forward or
It
whatever.
just, I can show you a picture, I won't take the time right now, but it, and this was brought to my attention by, you know, one of the folks in that area, and he said, you should just look at that, and it's, picture's worth 1,000 words. The intake is there, but the water's basically bypassing it. You know, and obviously with this amount of flow, it's not gonna handle, you know, the amount of flow, not all of it's gonna be able to go in, but, you know, it's going into a brand-new tile system,
Mhm.
brand-new intake, it'd be a wonderful way to get rid of a lot of it.
Absolutely.
But it just kind of sitting there. It's really not doing anything.
So is that,
It's on the south side.
there is water flowing through the
Oh,
culvert?
oh yeah, the water is flowing, and
I
his
went down that road, I went down 180.
thought process was, you know, it's gonna flow there, you're not gonna stop the surface water, it's always gone there, it's always gonna go there.
Yeah.
But that, you know, with the flow that's there now and nothing going in, you know, as the flow subsides, nothing's gonna go in either, so it's always
Yeah.
gonna be surface water.
Basically, it's never gonna take any water, 'cause it's too high.
Right, it's just in the wrong spot.
Is that in the same area as that tile that goes underneath the road?
Yes. Exactly in that area.
I'll have to look at the positioning of that.
It's just,
Because I know they were gonna fix the one on the north side that, remember that, had issues and they had to pull that off and put a different,
Yeah, and the fabric fell down and
yeah,
blocked it.
fabric fell down and,
Yeah.
I wish we had a way to put this on the screen, but, I mean, there's a terrific amount of water.
Well, I believe it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this is a Hickenbottom intake.
It looks
I
like
think it's just
almost-
going right past it.
It's like all the holes are above the water line.
Yeah, I mean, then, this is about,
Mhm. Yeah,
so that
This is
might be an elevation issue.
Yep.
But, yeah, get a chance to, you know, take a look at it. Like I said, there's a lot of water flowing there.
my note to myself was check on intake south of 190th, water bypassing.
Yep, and there's, I mean, that gives you kind of a orientation.
Oh, sure.
So it may be more of an elevation than a location.
Yeah, I'm
Looks
thinking
like some
so.
elevation.
I'm definitely thinking.
And I'm not sure, Harlan probably would know, 'cause he's kept an eye on it. Did they move that, or did they move the one on the north that was, there was a concern on the location of the intake?
They moved the one down on from the fence line down south a half a mile.
Okay,
True.
okay, so this
Right there.
one, they, wasn't an issue of moving it.
Right,
Okay, I think it's,
we'll look at it, but I'm guessing it's gonna be an elevation.
that's what it looks like,
Yeah.
so.
And I'm speculating too, that they'll maybe be able to, once the water goes down, they can take that Hickenbottom off and cut
it off.
Cut the bottom part
Get
off
it
and put it
lower.
back in.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, but we'll look at it.
Okay, so I just, means we're talking on the 35,
Yep.
that's an issue that, you know, and certainly have time to look at that when the conditions allow.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks, Rick.
If it's still frozen, I'll look at it as far as from the road.
Yeah, well, that's what it looks like right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna look like that for a while, but,
Sure.
so, yeah, just something that needs to be addressed, one way, shape, or
And
form.
I'd like to look personally at what's happening on the north side too.
Yeah, yeah, just a good area to take a look at while we've got some time
Are
here.
these from you, Trish, these maps?
Should have a book of them.
Yeah, the one,
What do we do in
Making
Webster
sure that
County?
Still have it,
Oh.
current and update.
and that's what you
That's
gave
it, I
me
think.
earlier.
You got anything, Trish?
Yeah, thank you. I just have that bill from, I moved to go out of drainage.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Bob's out in the hall.
Yeah, Bob and Tom. There's your pen, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Jim, and Ann, Sandy.
It writes really well, though, I mean, it's like,
That's a nice little kid.
yeah.
Not really to marry out. Okay.
Yeah.
You got it, Randy?
All right.
Was that the thing under the railroad tracks?
Yeah.
Didn't get any,
Thank you, fellas.
did they get fixed?
Yeah,
Rick, if
They
you
did.
get an extra copy of that.
The appraisal report?
there was a box, I think, out of the railroad track.
In the tile? and they got it fixed.
Mhm.
Okay,
So it's good.
good deal.
Where's this at?
Oh, it's a Humboldt Webster.
Oh, that one down
That
there.
railroad track thing, and it had water sitting around.
They got it taken care of?
They fixed the tile further away from the right of way.
Oh,
It was
good.
broke, crushed, and they fixed that, and then it
We don't have,
went.
Good. We don't like to fight the
I was
railroad.
gonna say.
That's good.
It's a good thing.
We don't like fighting railroads.
Anytime you can say that, it's a good thing.
Hello?
You bet, thank you.
Yes, we should. Mr. Chairman, we have about
5 minutes.
I was gonna ask for two,
Too long, you're already 46 or 50.
Now, you better bring that stuff up when we're agreeing, Dave.
Should've started out a little more. Put us behind.
Okay, Rick, I have things for you to sign.
Okay.
This is the one from ISAC, and then I have one from the statewide supervisor meeting that we need to sign too. And here's the new declaration, if you want to sign it.
You're welcome. No, that's, I don't care. We get along.
I didn't mean to be fussy on that, but I
Oh, no, that's
That's a good
okay.
catch.
That's a good catch.
Yeah,
Well,
it
it
was.
should
I
be.
didn't notice it either. And neither did the gal. So, thank you.
I didn't wanna throw this out later on because of that.
Exactly. And then Chris said she sent it on to Franklin County. Do we need to resend it?
I don't think so, because they sent it to Franklin, he was gonna forward it down.
Okay, so we don't need to do another one?
He would help us out.
Okay.
And we're supposed to keep track of all time, mileage, hours, everything.
All that.
Anything we do, we're throughout for the flooding and all that. And I told Dean the same, and he looked at me and said, "Why?" And I
That's
said,
how
"Well,
they do it.
your salary, but you still gotta account for your time, so put down your time."
Were you on a break or? No?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
took a short break for,
Very short one.
Okay.
Oh, was the thing still going?
Yes. That's why I asked. I don't care if they hear everything you say, if you guys don't care.
All right, we back? Start right.
yeah, good.
All right. You're up. All right.
I like this trim.
Sorry about the
Oh,
Wendy.
Good morning, Bob. I'm good, thank you. Good to see you.
Hi, Bob.
Morning, good to see ya. Rick, good morning. See ya.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, doing good, you, Bob?
Good, yeah. Well, it seems like I've been on my way to this meeting for a long time, with all the weather. And even today, we had about 3 cars that spun off the road. There was a
Really?
little thin sheet out there, so, but we're on our way to spring.
We hope.
I, oh, gotta be.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have a decent, a little slower thaw than we've been having.
I was at my brother-in-law's this weekend, and the robins are thick down in Missouri, so they're moving north. I
Coming
just,
this way.
yeah, I hope so.
Didn't he come back with
I didn't bring any back, but I tried to get a couple of pictures, and they fly away, so
He
people
has,
that,
one at our place,
cool.
yeah, so that's a good sign.
That's right.
3 more snowstorms, right? That's
Usually a
That's what
couple.
they say, oh, no, don't say
I
that.
think 3, that's what I've heard. No, last year was true, because we had that last one on the 15th of April.
Usually get dusted a couple of times, and then look at you, you know, like, wow.
After my doing here.
Well, I appreciate the time with the board. I've got a lot of information to go over, but really just want to be here to answer your questions and let you know what County Social Services has been up to and what we plan to do in the coming year and 2 and 5 years out. So I'll just start with the annual report. I didn't bring a lot of copies.
That's
I-
okay,
you
don't
share?
worry about it, as long as the guys have them.
Thank you.
You can have mine when we get done.
Okay.
So this is the formal report that's due to the department each year. And this breaks out every dollar that we spent by the people we serve. The first section there talks about our access standards. The main charge of the regions is to make sure that services are available, not only in a timely fashion, but geographically, that we're giving folks access within a reasonable drive and a reasonable time frame. And that's what that first chart talks about, the different services and how we go about accomplishing that. If you come forward to page 10, then you see another table, and that table takes every service that we provide and identifies how many people receive some kind of assistance for that service. So on page 10, you see psychotherapeutic treatment outpatient, 682 individuals received some assistance, and if you go up, that A stands for adult, and if you go up a little farther, the MI stands for mental illness. So going across the top, we track our dollars by folks that we serve primarily for mental illness, intellectual disability, developmental disability, and brain injury. Now, we're only mandated to serve the mentally ill and the folks with intellectual disability, but County Social Services has always provided the most expansive coverage, so we also include people with developmental disability, which means they don't necessarily have to have an IQ below that for mental retardation, but they have to have functional deficits in 5 life areas. And so essentially, people that need help, we help them. Brain injury is certainly another area. We served 25 individuals with brain injury within our region. The state regional system served less than 30. So we're leading the way, and we try to encourage everybody to expand their coverage to take care of folks with brain injury, because that's such a significant need for those few families that are impacted by that.
Bob, are these numbers for the area, or our
Just our
county?
region?
The whole region.
All right, so it was the 22 count, that's what I wanted.
Right.
I wanna make sure that...
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of discussion about tracking accounts by counties, but when we created regions, the whole idea of creating the regions was to get rid of legal settlement.
Right.
And do any of you remember legal settlement? Back in the day, when just the county was responsible, if one of your residents moved to...
Across the county line, it caused all kinds of headaches.
That's right, you still had to pay. Didn't matter where they lived in Iowa. And so, by creating the counties then, we took that issue away, so now wherever you live is where you're served. And so the money follows the client, and more importantly, the money goes where the providers are. And so when we look at our member counties, if you look at where our dollars are being spent, we're not spending money on counties, we're spending money on providers that are in counties. And we have some real strong providers in rural areas where we have a concentration of money. And obviously our urban areas draw more folks with that critical mass, if you will. But from time to time, we drill down to look at those numbers, but that's been a huge thing for us as a region, to kind of come to terms with what is the best way to use property tax. And we could all probably agree that's not a good idea to begin with, but if that's all we have to do, doing that per capita, so you're levying so many dollars per person, that's the best way to provide health care, I think anyway, as long as we're going to do property tax. But I got a little bit off on a tangent there. There is, I don't know if you're down to ISAC this last week, there is some movement around the cent tax. I think Senator Brown has advanced, if they increase the sales tax by a penny, they would target a good share of that to fund mental health services and provide property tax relief. So that might be a long-term solution to some of the funding issues. That aside, there you see the breakdown again by services, and again, you can see we have quite a menu of different services. Everything from work supports, to in-home supports, to nursing supports, to institutional supports. So for last year, we provided 11,144 services, and then on page 13, we provided those services to 5,693 unduplicated individuals. So 5,693 individuals within our 22 counties received some assistance. And then you can see we broke it out again by primary diagnostic category, if you will. Then the next chart takes those counts and it attaches the actual dollars spent. So again, taking the same format, that 682 individuals that received outpatient treatment cost us $337,416. So if you want to know how much we spent per person per service, you can just do the math there. And that brings us to a total expenditure for last year of $20,694,000. I'm on page 16 now. So that's the total accrual expenditure. We actually had a cash expenditure of over $22 million. That's why we had to amend our budget. But some of that was cleaning up our case management program that we lost when the MCOs left, and tightening up our financial process. I'll talk a little bit about later. Page 17 talks about our revenues. When we came together as regions in 14 and 15, we were still getting some equalization money from the state, and this all goes back to 1996 when they froze property tax, and then the state said, as this increased, we'll send you state money so you don't have to increase your local dollars. And so then for several years, we had some very complex sharing arrangements that maybe you recall, Peggy. You had to spend so much of your fund balance, and then you got more money, and then you had to go broke again, then you got more money, and then some people hung on to the money, so they didn't. And so this hopefully has equalized some of that. But now the state essentially does not send us any money, that this is all property tax dollars. We get a little miscellaneous money. Renee, I'm sorry, Allison. Allison runs the case management program that we bill about $200,000 a year. And
We're just still hanging in there.
Yeah, we're still providing the service. She's actually even making a little bit of a margin. It used to be a cost base, but we're actually making a little money under the new managed care model. So we brought in $17 million in revenue last year. Our ending fund balance, the amount of money that we brought forward from last year, was $6,446,826. That's about 30% of our expenditure budget. That has been the target of our board for some time. They've been very cognizant of our fund balance, so we have tried to have a soft landing. We invested some of the reserves we had, and we've been bringing our per capita levy down, but trying not to drop it too quickly, so we'd have to bring it back up. So we've been at 3518 now. This will be the third, going into the third year at that level. Okay, on the next page, page 18. Last year we did, after we set the budget at $35.18, we did drop it another $2 in late March to $33.18. And if you go through the member counties, you see that Butler was a little bit below that. They were at $26.14, but they were still under the dollar cap, which was lifted by House File 504. So this year now they're at $35.18 with all the other members. Cassuth, you may have heard some of the challenges we've had with Cassuth, and sorting out their understanding of the expectation of the board. They levied $26.24 in this fiscal year, and then this year, they're actually levying $21. And that's the issue that we have in mediation. We seem to be at a point now where we understand the problem, and they have stepped forward and they've maxed their levy in this coming year, so they are doing due diligence, if you will, to resolve the issue. The only other county that was below was Tama, and again, they were below the dollar cap prior to this current year. They are now levying at the same 35.18 as all the member counties. So that the larger issue that we've struggled with as a board is the kind of that shared control of the CSS board and you as a local board of supervisors. What our 2080 agreement says is that the CSS board will set the levy and ask you to levy those dollar amounts to be available to the region then going forward. If I was to argue Kasuth's position and why we're in this situation, they felt that they should be able to use their fund balance. But when we created CSS, we were a little different from the other regions. We were all in. So whatever you had when you came in, whether you had a lot of money in fund balance or you had a deficit, we had 2 counties that actually came in owing money to Medicaid. We made everybody equal. And so again, that's the issue that we're working through, and hopefully we're making some progress.
Kind of what Kasuth is doing, they're just gonna levy less and use up some of their fund balance to get it down, and then we'll possibly come in.
No. So but you said exactly what that disconnect was. They believed they could use their fund balance, but when they joined CSS, the fund balance already belonged to CSS.
Oh, okay.
And so you can't use money that you've already transferred in to pay your obligation for the levy.
Okay.
The levy was a separate issue. And again, there are regions that did allow, there are still some regions that allow their member counties to control their fund balance, and so they're making purchases and expenditures independent of the region. But again, that's not the way CSS had organized and put their 2080 forward. Kasuth, Worth, and Winnebago have all given indication of their desire to leave the region. They then sent Northwest Care Connections that they had initially thought they were going to join, was not interested in engaging applicants if there was pending mediation. So they asked them to reapply next year. They wouldn't be taking anybody July 1st. So then those counties did send a letter to the department and asked that they be able to form their own region, which they were given pilot language to do so last year, but were not able to meet the criteria set by the department. So now you will be getting a letter from Director Foxhoven that says that their request has been denied and they're being asked to stay with County Social Services for another year beyond to June 30th, 2020. Yeah. So any questions about that? It certainly has created a lot of tension within the board. We certainly tried to work to resolve those issues, but we're not there yet, I guess would be the safest.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
No, it's pretty broken.
Yeah. And so what, one of the things we did learn under the 2080 is that our recourse if a member doesn't pay is to terminate voting rights and terminate services. And when we came up to that issue, The department was not giving us direction. We couldn't get direction from the Attorney General. So we essentially, or I essentially advised the board that we continue to serve those residents, because how do we hold vulnerable populations accountable for a contractual dispute? After the board made that decision and affirmed that direction, then the department told us we did the right thing. And they would have told us we were gonna have to do that anyway. So it'll be interesting, July 1 of this year, because legally these member counties will not be under our 28E. They will be orphaned and under the direction of the department. So we've got a few more things to work through there. Okay, the rest of the report talks more specifically about outcomes. A lot of what the region is doing is we're trying to build that safety net. We don't have the dollars that we used to. Where our expenditures are running now between about $16 million a year. A few years ago, Black Hawk County alone used to have about a $40 million budget. So with us not managing the Medicaid, we certainly have a much smaller pot of money. And so our charge is to make sure we're providing that safety net, make sure we're helping those folks that become disconnected from the MCOs, helping them to get reconnected to their services. One of the programs we're very proud of is our iStart program. The iStart program is a program that we brought in from New Hampshire. It was developed back in 1988. It's a specialized mental health intervention program for folks with intellectual disability. This is the population that we were seeing the most challenges in serving in the community. 85% of our referrals come to us with either property damage or physical damage or self-injury, and so we use an interdisciplinary team approach to try to support those individuals and help them to be successful in the community. This program is now being shared or being expanded into the Rolling Hills region and into the Cross region last year, and then we've just completed talks with the East Central region, Iowa City, Johnson, Cedar Rapids, and they're interested in expanding the program further into their area. Once we have this full expansion, this program will cover over half of the state. So we're very, very excited about that. The other programs and then some of the charts there you see, this program was actually a subject of a research project, independent research project, and we saw dramatic reductions in the use of inpatient psychiatric care and the use of emergency departments for this population. And that's certainly the savings and the trauma we wanted to impact with our program. We're completing a pilot with a Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program grant in Mason City. What's so significant about this program is we've inserted a social worker with the Mason City Police Force. We've got a long history of working with our sheriff departments and working with our courts, but typically then when we get involved, then there's been some court proceedings already started. By being involved with the police now we're responding to those 911 calls. Now we're truly on the front lines with police. And so now how can we divert and serve those folks more effectively and take pressure off of law enforcement so that they can stay focused on the job that they're to do. One of the most interesting statistics we realized was 65 to 75% of the individuals identified by law enforcement needing mental health intervention from a 911 call were already known to us. They're in our database. And so it tells us that law enforcement, our offices, the courts, the jails, we're all trying to serve a pretty complex and vulnerable population. And the more we work together, the more effective we're going to be in having better outcomes for our community. So we're looking forward to leveraging what we learned there. The other statistics is about our transition program. Again, we try to organize our approach to getting people out of jail, getting people out of the hospital, and then keeping people in the community. When Allison's team has somebody that's in crisis, she can leverage the transition specialist to use the crisis center, or get them into the hospital, or whatever resources we need to keep them successful. The reorganization of the pivot has really been successful, primarily with the leadership of Allison and her team. The flexibility she has by bringing interdisciplinary team together. We've got people positioned throughout the counties, but then they have the flexibility to go where the client's needs are. And then if she has one person that is knowledgeable about the court system, then that expertise can be shared. We've got folks with expertise in children's services, which will be a good thing to have as we expand to children's services next year. Am I getting too long?
I'm used to it.
Yeah, a little bit.
I got an auto
You gotta give me
button.
a signal when I start losing folks. Okay, so that's what we've done. Now I want to give you a snapshot of where we are today, and I can make this a lot quicker. Plenty of these.
Okay.
This is a report that we developed coming out of the pivot and trying to figure out how we can have the best financial picture for our stakeholders and our board. Did you want one? So, again, this is a summary, and this is a summary of our financial report that Liz generates for us, our fiscal agent. So these are not estimated numbers other than the first column, that's our budget. All the other numbers are actual cash expenditure numbers. So we have revenue across the top, and at the very top left, we have the percent of the year-to-date, 58%. And then the bottom right is year-to-date expenditures, 57%. And that 57% of expenditures is 57% of our re-estimated budget of $15,665,000. Our actual budget this year is $18 million, so we are well under budget. And if you remember, last year we spent $20.6 million, so we're running almost $5 million under budget last year. So again, that tells you how strong our quadrant teams have been in leveraging people into the Medicaid system. We've reduced the number of folks in residential care facilities that we pay 100% of. We've moved them into community settings, saving those dollars. We've moved people out of institutional care, and again, that all comes back to our four quadrant teams that have done a remarkable job in getting people covered by their Medicaid benefits and taking the pressure off of our dollars. You see in the current month, so for January, or was this February? Period ending 1/3. This is January. So we spent $1 million in January. We spent $1.2 million in December, and then you even see today this through the end of February, we spent $1.1 million. So our financial manager tries very hard to pay every provider every month, so our board has a good picture of trending. As long as we're staying under $1.2 million, we'll be hitting our budget without any problem. Our actual cash balance available to us is $5.4 million, so we're sitting good until we get our next tax collection. And then each of those line items are, you see the core services mandated in an additional core, so those are our requirements, if you will. Next year, most of the additional core services will become core services as we move into the House File 2456. Questions about that? Simple enough?
No.
Good. Okay, so, going forward, taking that re-estimate, so the first column there shows you what our budget was.
Same thing I have.
Peggy won't give them.
So based on our budget was $18.3 million, so based on actual expenditures for the first half of the year, we re-estimated we'll actually spend $15.6 million this year. So to build our FY20 budget, we provided a inflation factor of 3%. We provided 3 scenarios to the board, keeping the levy the same, lowering the levy $2, or raising the levy $1. The board decided to keep the levy the same, and then we added one line item, which is mobile crisis. You see $1 million added to the budget there. Mobile crisis will be, once we have it up and running, it will be an ongoing expense because it's not being paid very well by the MCOs, but it's going to really complete our service system. So we're on target to move mobile crisis into the region after July 1. What mobile crisis essentially is, if you call with a crisis, a mental health crisis, somebody will be there within an hour. That's the charge. What's nice about this service is a lot of other regions have already done this. Typically CSS is the first one doing the service. It's nice to have a good track record to launch. Foundation 2 has been the premier provider of this service throughout the state, and so they have great data for us. One of the most exciting things about this program is 25% of their calls go to the schools, which really surprised me. And so we talk about expanding to children's services. This is a perfect way to expand services to children. So it doesn't matter what age you are, you can access this mobile crisis, and it'll be a great resource to support our schools that we know are really struggle sometimes with challenging behavior.
Well, covering 22 counties, we're gonna have to have several, right?
Right.
In different locations that would be able to, because
Within
an hour, you're gonna be spread kinda thin, going clear out to the east.
Yeah, what's really cool about that is as we looked at it, if they co-located with us in each of our quadrants, that would almost put them right on track. And then if we had them working with our team, that helps in terms of continuity of care too. So if Allison has a mobile responder within her office, they go out, they see somebody, they said, you know, that he's gonna need more than just this visit. Then he comes back and has that conversation with Allison, and how do we get them connected and going forward.
Is there a map of quadrants?
Yes. Oh, shoot. Did I not bring my flyers? Shame on me.
How did you not do that?
Would you go up and...
I don't know if we do.
Oh, he does.
She does, all right.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the chair. Yeah, I'll get you, I have to bring a brochure.
You're talking the brochure one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the trifold. Yeah, so if you're located central, then you should be able to do that hour response. And in fact, even our staff could do some after hours calls too, as part of their employment. So we're really excited, and then that ties in with the state now is going to one 24/7 crisis line. So Your Life Iowa now, if you call Your Life Iowa, that will be that goes into Foundation 2, and then they can dispatch that person to your school or your home or jails or wherever we want them to respond. And typically they've been responding in pairs, which seems to be effective way of doing that as well. So just to kind of move forward here, and we'll come back to the quadrants. So based on the same levy, projected expenditures of $17 million, we think our ending fund balance will be about $6.6 million. That will, our ending fund balance will be 6.6. If we figure 30% set aside for cash flow, that'd be about 5.1 million. Take that I hope I don't lose you with my math. But if you take our excess fund balance minus our cash flow balance of 30%, that's where I get that one-time money of $1,550,000. So that's money we won't have on an ongoing basis, but it's money we can use to start these Medicaid programs that will be sustained by the MCOs. So the 3 programs we've identified, ACT in the North Quad. What the ACT is, it's called Assertive Community Treatment Team. It's taking a team of providers, substance abuse providers, social workers, psychiatrists, and they enroll a group of like 50 to 100 individuals with persistent mental illness, and they provide a hospital without walls, if you will. We just launched one of these teams in Blackhawk last year, and they've been very effective in reducing our reliance on residential care facilities and again, serving some very complex needs. So we need to meet the new mandates for 2456. We need one of these teams in the North Quadrant, and we need one of these teams in the East Quadrant. Berry Hill does do ACT for our West Quadrant. We might look at ways to try to push that service farther out. I don't know that they're serving anybody in the Humboldt or Wright or...
Yeah, but I'm aware we have 41 enrolled in Webster County.
Yeah. We should be able to get that access a little farther north. The other big expenditure is an access center for the West Quadrant. If you're wondering what an access center is, you're in good company. Everybody's trying to figure out what an access center is. It's mandated. I was on the state work group that identified the need for access centers. 2456 says there should be 6 throughout the state, and what the sheriffs were pushing is they want a place to go that's within 90 minutes. So that's what so that's what an access center is. It's a place to go. Our crisis center in Waterloo just started subacute services. We think they have everything they need to be an access center. So we think we'll be turning that center on in July. But we really need that level of service in the West Quad. Over in the South Quad, when I talk about Waterloo, that's the South Quad. And there we have Allen and Covenant, and we have a lot of psychiatric services. In the North Quad, we've got Mercy Medical Center. Over here in the West Quad, we have Spencer that has a small unit, and then we have St. Anthony's at Carroll. Ever since we lost the psychiatric unit in Fort Dodge at Trinity, this area really has had very limited access. We send people, a lot of folks to Council Bluffs. A lot of folks end up going to Davenport. And so we're going to try very hard to have an access center that at least keeps people within the quadrant, and first and foremost, so then law enforcement isn't driving across the state. And secondly, giving a point certain where law enforcement can get somebody out of their hands into mental health services, or into addiction services, or anything other than going to the jail, or sitting in an emergency room. That's the idea behind the access center.
That was the biggest, on that one meeting we attended, that the sheriffs, that was their biggest worry, is having that 100 miles, being able to basically turn someone into someone competent to take care of.
Yeah. It's that simple and that hard. The models we looked at, Lancaster County and Lincoln, Nebraska, has been doing a crisis center since the 80s. It's interesting because their crisis center is about 12 beds, and they serve about the same population as our region, about 450, 1,000. Their crisis center sits, or it did, I think they moved it, but it used to sit in the parking lot of Bryan Memorial Hospital. So the way they use the crisis center is anybody that was involved with law enforcement that wasn't voluntary had to come through their door. But their objective was to divert and get people to engage in treatment. So wouldn't you rather sign yourself into Ryan Memorial? And if not, then they would do all the civil hearings through the crisis center. So that's kind of the model that we've been looking at. The other model that's gotten a lot of attention is the Restoration Center in San Antonio. And if you go down there and you visit San Antonio, you pull into their parking lot, and the first thing you see is police cars, just dropping people off, and just the next one looks like they're selling donuts there. So many cop cars go through there. But they built the Restoration Center when their 4,000 inmate jail was full, and they said, do we build another jail or do we do something different? And the Restoration Center was that something different. And now they've gotten national attention for their work. So that's the foundation we're using, and we're hoping we're going to have with access centers. If we do this right, it should really impact the ability of sheriff's departments to cover their county and to reduce the jail census. So,
Perfect.
yeah. Thanks for listening to all that. Questions?
One question we had, because we were down at ISAC and they were talking about the children's services, that it was gonna be going from 0 to 21.
Yeah.
Now, is that gonna be a part of your department, or are they gonna have a separate department for that? Because they was unclear on that when we were at the meeting. Everybody had different ideas of what.
Yeah, it sounded to me like it was gonna be a separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's foolish, and I don't.
Where's the extra?
Yeah, we do is, I mean, we.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what we
we're
thought.
just not mandated to, I
Right.
mean, you know,
Right,
majority of
that's
like
what we
my
thought.
backbone comes from children.
Mhm.
What you're hearing is the challenges we have anytime we try to build a system, because I sat on the children's work group for a couple of years, not this last year, but children providers wanted control over the children's system. So they're not really crazy about the regions controlling the system. But the point is, the regions don't need to control the system, but we have access, and that's the most expensive part of the system, is just giving families access. We're not
Yeah,
gonna.
because you already have access to the family.
Right.
And
And
why
they
would
were
you
talking about-
duplicate it?
Yeah, they're talking about going to the same beds, the same
Yeah,
facilities, the
but
same psychiatry.
the state does a lot of
Makes sense.
no-brainers, things wrong.
Yeah.
Well, and then the reason this is getting traction is because the regions do have money. And so this initial bill, it's a policy bill, it's not a funding bill.
Great.
But it does require that the regions have children coordinators. Well, we've anticipated this. We have 4 youth coordinators. And so we're ready. We've always thought we should do this. We actually did a pilot project in the North Quadrant for several years with YSS. And I think what we're going to discover is this isn't a real big hole. What it is again, just helping families get to where they need to be. Because there's a lot of great coverage for children, there's a lot of great services, but it's hard for families sometimes to navigate, because they don't know if they're gonna
Well, it's good
qualify.
to know you're prepared and ready for it.
You bet. We think it's long overdue.
Good.
And the CSS board, to give them credit, anytime we brought up children, they've been all about it. Again, it's not a mandate, but it's silly to try to take care of adults and not be preventive and try to invest in children. I mean, that's, you get that as elected officials and representatives and constituents. Not taking care of kids, and
Right, good. I'm glad to
And
hear
then
that.
hopefully within a year, we're gonna have everybody either decided we're gonna stay in the sandbox and play like good kids, or we're gonna take our stuff and get out and leave. That's the theory, the whole...
well, boy, that's what we've been trying to do, and what's frustrated me is we just seem to keep talking past each other.
Right.
That they go and have their meetings, and then CSS has their meetings, but we're not talking about their issues. So we keep having these fragmented conversations. Everybody at the table wants everybody to be happy. And if these counties want to be someplace else, every other board member wants them to be there. So we're not trying to keep anybody from moving. But the rules I mean, this is like getting a divorce. You don't just, oh, I'm gonna find something else. You gotta untangle a lot of relationships. This is gonna impact, services. Northwest Care Connections does not cover developmental disability. They don't cover brain injury. They don't provide a lot of the services that we do. That makes them attractive from a taxing standpoint. And so, you know, that's just, you know,
You're not
that's,
taking care of your people, you do that.
that's,
We're wasting a lot of time talking about things, and I think resources too, instead of just getting down to the point and figuring it out. And like you said, just let's play nice.
Yeah.
Get everybody, all of our constituents taken care of.
yeah.
And ironically, what one of the county board members had said when this was a discussion, and back when we were kind of dealing with some stuff with my own employer of record of Webster County, was that, you know, CSS provides the best service. That wasn't the question, it was more a personality issues and conflict for leaving, not than what's doing best for the community, which is really sad.
It's a struggle. And we did things differently. When we had the resources, we invested in a crisis stabilization center. When we opened our crisis center in Waterloo, it didn't exist. So we were open for 2 days, and the Department of Inspection Appeals came in and said, well, you gotta close. Well, why? Well, because you can't be what you wanna be. So, we went down to the state, we got pilot language, we reopened within a month. And then we became the model for the state, and now there are crisis centers all over the state. iStart, I think, is gonna be another program. We've been piloting and pushing children's services. We're very glad to see that's happening. But what we're doing now is, we're levying at 3518. If, long-term, these levies have to equalize across the state. And if the state said tomorrow, the levy's $30, we would adjust. So we're taking a very close analysis of our neighbors, and we're gonna be very close to what they're spending. Now, what is gonna look different when you compare is you'll hear stories of, well, we're levying $5, we're levying $10. That's not what they're spending. They've got reserves that they haven't spent, and so now they're spending down the reserves. I did analysis on the expenditures for FY18, what each region actually spent. The median expenditure was $35 per capita. So we're right there.
In the boundary, yeah.
And administratively, we've got one of the lowest administrative costs in the state, so we're very proud of that too.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, very generous with your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to serve you.
Next one's Todd Anderson.
Morning.
Morning.
Hi, Todd. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, suffering through our long meeting.
Hand out my business card along with, and if you have extras, that's okay, along with the flyer here. My name's Todd Anderson, I'm with Community and Family Resources of Iowa. We serve an 8-county area, specific to this county, but also with Webster, Wright, Hamilton, Story, Boone, Calhoun, and Pocahontas. What I'm also, a little bit about myself anyway, I've been in Iowa for about 10 years, born and raised in Minnesota. But previous life, I was a college instructor, including at Iowa Central at Fort Dodge, for about 10 years. So my background is in education. What I'm also am doing is a project director for a mental health awareness training grant. And what this grant attempts to do is to train various public members, specifically those in professions that deal a lot with first responders or that interact a lot with people who might be living with a mental health issue. What I do is offer training, and the key word here is free training. It is all fully funded. It's offered an 8-hour training to allow people to more easily identify people who may be living with a mental health issue, how to approach them, in other words, how to use proper language to broach the topic without alienating them or without shutting them down from seeking assistance, but also how to refer them to various services around these counties. And this is not a full-fledged kind of intervention, kind of a de-escalation training. It does deal with that, but it does deal with the nuances of a crisis, whether a person is just really down and has been for quite some time. It offers self-help techniques as well, so I don't want to frame this in a way that is to the extreme, that we only look for various extreme cases of people who might be living with a mental health issue. So this really involves anybody, including loved ones or families of various people who are listed under the Who Should Take It. Specifically with this grant, it goes year by year, but I cast a very wide net. So technically, this first year, I'm trying to get together public safety officials, so police officers namely, but any first responders, EMS, EMTs, fire, volunteer or professional firefighters as well. Also veterans, people in higher education, including older adults and eventually youth. So I will be going into various schools, public and private, to train teachers as well as staff professionals on how to, again, better recognize, address, and refer individuals who might be living with a mental health issue. It is a very uncomfortable issue for many people to talk about, so I address strategies on how to delicately approach it, how to approach people that may be suffering or living with this at various levels. I can throw statistics out there. I do have some in front of you anyway, but any given year, and this is just within 1 year, an average of 1 out of 5 people will be suffering from a mental health issue. And this is usually on the extreme, or excuse me, on the not so extreme part. If we were to provide all levels of anxiety, generalized anxiety, or even severe cases, that 20% would be up to over 30%. And if we were to stretch it out to over a lifetime, we would be talking about 50% of people will, through their lifetime, be going through some significant mental health issue. Now, this does address mental health disorders and illnesses, but also mental health problems, so the less severe, less disabling mental illnesses or mental problems. So I cast a wide net. This isn't just addressed to first responders, but also for people who are loved ones or family members of first responders, because they need love and care too. Unfortunately, public safety officials or anybody that significantly deals with traumatic events, they too are generally one of these statistics. And of course, we are trying to lower those statistics, not just among the general public, but also among these various target demographics as well. So this isn't clinical training. This isn't meant to be able to diagnose or to treat mental health issues. This is more on how to better recognize and how to actually address and refer a person to various resources. So the most common analogy is we liken this to CPR training. A lot of us probably are very well versed in CPR training, but we're not well versed in how to actually diagnose what caused that particular issue, nor is that the case for this. So this is more like CPR to be able to assist somebody until actual professional assistance does come and arrive. Again, it's not an issue that many people like to broach, but that is part of this training, especially with the various skill sets that professionals have. This is just one more in their arsenal that they do need. And this, just to dovetail on the previous presentation, an average of 10% of all police calls on a daily basis is going to be addressing a situation in which somebody does have a mental health issue that significantly factors into that call. And that 10% is just average. So depending on what part of the country you're in or what part of the state, that 10% can be significantly greater in number too. So hence we're targeting those kinds of first responders as well as the general public. So you will see my name around newspapers, around radios, around social media campaigns through CFR. I am starting to keep in touch with various news outlets too to better promote this publicly, but also I do take any kind of private trainings. So if you know of anybody who is at least can call together at least 5 people minimum to 30 people maximum, I can provide, again, that free training. It is 8 hours in length. Generally, we take it in one single day, but considering first responders' erratic schedules, I can parse this into multiple days as well. So I'm very accommodating with what I can train too. So, are there any questions on this or on community and family resources yet?
I'm on the ministerial board,
Yeah.
and the ministers are putting together a group
Okay.
for the suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm.
So I meet with them on Wednesday. I'm gonna give them your card, and I'll have a couple of these extra
Yeah,
flyers.
you know, I'll just provide a pile, should I give this
Yeah,
to
just throw it right
anybody right here?
I'd like to
And I'll provide
give them
additional
that.
business cards too, yeah, if you wanna hand that out, just a flyer or business card, I'm all ears to
Perfect.
anybody who wants to contact me. And faith leaders are included too, that's, technically I have to amend the grant eventually to include those, but like I said, I cast a wide net because I don't wanna just limit it to specific demographics and leave out others.
And I'm also on the CFR board, so
Excellent.
are you,
Yeah, Shelley's able,
right.
stated that.
Awesome.
That you were on this project, and this is my first time here, so I do appreciate the
Well, we
time.
appreciate you
And
coming.
the exposure as well, so,
thank you very much.
thank you. Any other questions at all? I do appreciate your time, thanks again.
Thanks, sorry.
Thank you, Todd.
No, not a problem at all, not a problem at all.
Okay. You know, the ministerial judgment, I'm gonna get a copy of this one after.
Well, they're trying to do these little
Thank you very
side
much.
groups, but you know, when one minister's, then he can't come,
I know.
and so I'm gonna give it to him on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll have the ability to have them talk.
So when's your meeting?
Well, this past week, didn't have anything official that I attended.
Methodist Church.
I'm gonna make sure that Pastor Kathleen.
Yeah, just
Okay,
go
I was down
When,
in Wayne for the
office
ISAC
and
conference
over there.
on Thursday and Friday. So that's all I had.
Okay, I went to ISAC also. Wednesday night, they did have the mobile food pantry in town. The numbers I got sent to me were, the numbers were down a little bit this week, or this month. They ended up with 65 families, but 181 individuals. And of course, true to form, the numbers are down, and they sent more food than they've ever sent. So they ended up taking about two and a half pickup loads of stuff up to the food pantry. So if it doesn't get dispersed, our food pantry is a gain for them, so. But I guess being with the weather the way it was, Dallas Clark was down there pulling people's pickups and vehicles out of the mud that were stuck in, so we probably tore the fairgrounds up a little bit, but, that was the numbers and that was what I had for the week.
The only thing I had was ISAC also last week.
Okay, on Tuesday, I met with, secondary roads. The DOT's got a digital signing for these work orders, and, I've been working with Ben out there trying to get on the digital signing. I got notice, I think it was Friday, that, I finally got accepted onto it. You had to send my driver's license down and everything else. Harry gets to do it next year.
Thanks.
Any box culverts and any of that stuff at DOT would, you got a digital sign it.
Wasn't that one of the complaints at the ISAC meeting?
Yeah.
Yep.
I haven't got all the bugs worked out of it yet, so.
And I met with, John and Dean and Dan and Peggy on Tuesday also, on some other matters. Thursday and Friday, I was down to ISAC. Had a very good program, I thought, on Thursday. Then yesterday, I was driving around, I got called a little after 9 yesterday morning about the ice jam on the river. Ended up south of town checking the water, went, talked with Dean, talked with, Dave from Pocahontas County, and, I went clear as far as Bradgate and back in, following the river to find out where the ice was at, where we're looking at jams at, and everything's still froze north of Rutland. And it did break loose yesterday afternoon, if you haven't heard, so. That's all I had.
I would like to give a shout out for the money that was donated to the animal facility by the 100-plus Women Who Care project that donated, like, what, $15,500?
Yeah.
So what a boost
Huge.
for our facility.
That's great.
Can't thank them enough for that. I wrote that down so I didn't forget it, but anyway, we appreciate it very much, and it will come in
Be a
handy.
great start to the process.
Remind everybody of the big letting on Wednesday this week, 10 o'clock. We'll have zoning interviews
Following that.
Wednesday following that.
Perfect.
Anything else? Got anything for us, Vicki?
Nope.
Okay. I got everything signed, right?
Yeah. It's a busy day. The right one.
For now.
For now.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll make a,
Second.
okay, make a motion to adjourn? Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same.